Good morning students, welcome to the new computer learning session. In our today's session, we will learn about the different types of computer memory. As in the previous session, we have learned that what is a computer memory and how do we measure the computer memory. So today, we will learn about what are the different types of computer memory that is present inside the computer. So let's start. So computer memory is of two types. First is primary memory, or we can also call it as internal memory, because it resides inside the computer. That is why we call it as internal memory. And the next is secondary memory, and we can also call the secondary memory as the external memory, because it present outside the computer. Alright, so now let us see the example of the primary memory. Primary memory is of two types. The first one is RAM and the another one is the ROM. Similarly, our secondary memory is also of two types. The first one is the Similarly, our secondary memory also has the different types like CD-ROM, pen drive or hard disk. These all are the types of the secondary memory. Alright. So now let us start with the primary memory. So students, primary memory is the main memory of the computer that resides inside the computer. That is why it is also called as internal memory, because it is present inside the computer. Alright. Now, it is of two types. First one is RAM and the other one is the ROM. Now let us understand the two types of primary memory one by one. RAM. RAM stands for Random Access Memory. It is also called as primary memory or main memory. So students, it stores the data and instructions temporarily in the computer. Alright, temporarily means only for some time. So whenever we turn on the computer, so certain files load from a storage device such as a hard disk to the RAM, and it remains in the RAM as long as the computer is running. So students, whatever the work or whatever the program you are doing on the computer, all those work get stored in the RAM temporarily till the time the computer is running or till the time you are doing that work. Alright. Also students, the RAM is a volatile memory. Now the question is, what is volatile? So students, volatile memory is the memory that loses its contents when the power is switched off. Like once the power is switched off, so all the data that is present inside your RAM will get lost. Alright. So this is why RAM is called as temporary memory, because once the light turned off, once the power is turned off, all the data that is present here will disappear. So that is why we say that RAM stores the data on temporary basis. Alright. So students, if RAM is storing the data on the temporary basis, so we need a process to save our data, so that if in future we need the same data, so we will be able to look for it in our computer. So what we will do, we will save that data. So once we will save that data, a copy of that data will go from RAM to the hard disk, and it will be saved in our hard disk. Alright. So saving is the process of copying data from RAM to a hard disk. As you can see in the picture also students, suppose this is your computer and you have opened MS Paint on the computer. Okay. So whatever drawing you are making on the MS Paint, all that work is saved in the RAM. But it is only present in the RAM till the time you are using MS Paint. Once you close the MS Paint, it will come out of the RAM. Alright. So for saving that work, what you have to do, you have to save all the work, whatever you are doing on your computer, you have to keep on saving that work. Once you save the work, a copy of that same data goes from RAM to your hard disk, and it will stay there forever until unless you delete it yourself. Alright, now I hope you understand what is RAM and why do we call it as temporary memory. Now the next one is ROM. So students, ROM stands for read-only memory. As its name suggests, you can only read the information from the ROM. You cannot write anything and you cannot change anything. Alright, means whatever the data is present on the ROM, you cannot modify that data, means you cannot change that data. Now the question is, if we cannot modify, we cannot change, we cannot write anything on the ROM, then from where does the contents that are present inside the ROM, from where does those contents come? Right? So students, all those contents that are present inside the ROM, all those contents are created at the time of the manufacture. Means whenever your ROM chip is being made, at that time only its contents are added into it. Alright. So also it is a non-volatile memory. Non-volatile means if in case the power is switched off, nothing will be lost that is present inside your ROM chip. Alright. So students, this is all about your primary memory. Now let's move further to our secondary memory. So what is a secondary memory and why do we need a secondary memory? So students, as I said that primary memory is our temporary memory and we cannot save our data there permanently. So if in case we need to save our data like photographs, videos or documents, if in case we want to save our data permanently, so we need a type of memory that can save our data permanently. So for that kind of memory, we use the secondary memory. Alright. So secondary memory is also called external memory because it is not present inside the computer and it is present outside the computer, and we attach all the secondary memory devices with our computer externally. Alright. So it stores the data and information permanently. That is why we use the secondary memory for storing all our data and information which we want to be stored in the computer permanently. So here are some examples of the secondary storage devices. Like the first one is CD-ROM disk. The another one is pen drive. We have learnt about all these devices in the previous chapter also. And there comes the hard disk as well as the Blu-ray disc. So students, all these devices are our secondary storage devices, and all these devices stores the data and information permanently. So this is all about the computer memory. Now I hope you all have well understood about the primary memory as well as about the secondary memory. Thank you students.